Hey, what's going on, Archons? Welcome to another Key Thoughts. My musings on this great game of KeyForge. And this week, I'm just bringing some musings of what I've been up to. So I've kind of been really getting into my WoW decks, and I embarked on this before WoW was available on TCO, and I've decided to not take WoW onto TCO yet for myself. I want to wait to allow some of the bugs get ironed out and to actually still just explore my decks in my own way. And I'm of course speaking about using the goldfish or the fishbowl, whatever terminology you use for it, which is you play against yourself, you versus yourself. You get to pilot two of your decks solo, and you have them go against one another and make the most optimal plays possible based on which each has. So it's just a really fun way to get to experience two of your decks, see how the cards come, and really learn them in a way that's kind of different from playing on TCO, where you may not go against something with equal caliber, knowledge, all these sort of things that exist within a new set. And by playing against yourself, your skill level within that set is the same, and your familiarity with the decks is also the same. So therefore, you're kind of at an even match, plus you're getting to learn two of your decks at the same time, which I really like. An extra side note about this that I'm particularly enjoying is disconnecting from technology and playing KeyForge. Since I'm not going to stores right now, we don't have any events currently popping off here. This is a nice way to play KeyForge disconnected. I actually find it a really relaxing way to wind down at the end of a day, just to play KeyForge in this way. But I've also taken this to another level where I've been taking notes about the decks and what happens. So that's also been a fun thing. And I'll get into the nitty gritty of all this. But first, we're going to do a card of the week. And this week, I'm bringing to you dun, 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 the Fish token. That's right, the Fish token. So this I am bringing in as the card of the week because it is a token in one of my decks. And first of all, I think it's my favorite token art. And it's a 2-powered token creature that says destroyed, deal 2 damage to the creature with the highest. Sorry, 2 damage to the most powerful enemy creature. Sorry for the lack of focus there. And it's really great. It's a beast trait token. And the fish looks so cute, and the art is amazing. Great color scheme. I'm finding this a really fun way to utilize things because you can almost like view it as 4 power. If you swing into something and hit it for 2, then you get the extra 2 on top. If you went into the most powerful creature, you could swing into something small and then deal 2 damage to something else. Just the possibility of how you can spread damage out and utilize this is, I think, really interesting. It also creates, from the flip side, if you're playing against fish, you may want to be the one who attacks it and destroys it, because then as the active player, you get to decide which of your most powerful creatures, if they have a tide for power, that damage goes on, which can also be super advantageous. Let's say there's armor in the mix, right? So I'm really enjoying the fish token and what it provides and the thought process behind using it. Now, getting back to Fishbowl. Oh, wow. So first off, pro tip if you're going to do this is, if you listen to the podcast this past week, you'll know that I talked about having this weird bias existing when I was playing, where the deck that was directly in front of me was winning most of the time, and the deck that was across was actually losing most of the time. I've since broken that spell, I think, by speaking it out into the world and acknowledging it and calling myself out so coldly in such a public arena. I have dispelled whatever bias was there, and so now it's gone. But because of this, it prompted a discussion in the Help from Future Self Discord, and I have to say, shout out to Murph, Ultimo Fox, and Sith of Angmar, because there was a nice discussion talking about the best practice for this, and they had honestly the most elegant solution to preventing the bias. Not only preventing the bias, but also setting yourself up to play in this manner the most effectively, and that is to set up a table where you can sit at either end of the table. So when you're taking one turn, you sit at one side, and then when you're taking the other turn, you sit at the other, because your point of view of while you're playing is going to alter maybe your subconscious of how you're viewing things. So I think that was a really really great point of how you can combat maybe having some bias. That's really the best advice I can have for this. But also, you can just play with yourself, because there's also a way of maybe making the best calls that are somewhat good in this instance, where the bias may be relevant and be helpful, but just be conscious of it. But I do like the idea of switching sides and switching your perspective, because it's like you're playing in that card and you're in the zone for that, and you're more focused on what's best for that. Another great stratagem would be to draw cards face down. So as a practice that myself and I know Sydney started doing, and well, actually I don't know if Sydney does this, but I know Jason does from Nordic KeyForge. He did a good job saying that that was his Help from Future Self, was when I mentioned this, is putting your hand face down and drawing on top of it means whatever you draw, you're not aware of those cards when you take your next turn, and you don't have that information to influence any decisions you may make. So that's a really good one. I also like at the beginning, when you mulligan, if you do a mulligan to start the game, don't look at the cards you redrew, because then it also provides no information you need. You don't need to know it. Doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. You can't act upon it. So just don't know it and play your turn as is. So that's another 2 little top tips when you do this fishbowl / goldfish manner of playing. The other thing that I think is really important when you're doing this is taking notes. So I have done this. Where's my notebook? Here it is. So here I have a notebook. I utilize this. I have titled this KeyForge Deck Studies. And I kind of just have little notes here. Each page I talk about the decks. I write down what the deck went up against, the houses, what did each deck do. So note who won, who lost. And I don't say that if there's really something that happened that was incredibly like this, because this happened, it changed the tide of the game, that's noted. But otherwise, I'm really just looking at what each deck did well on its own. Like, what did it do? What were the star cards that helped it? What was the houses that, or the house even, that really shone to make the deck work? And I find when I look back, I can see a pattern, or okay, every single game, it's showing that Sanctum was the one that clinched the game for me. I don't know if that's true or not, but let's just say Sanctum is the one that clinched the game for me. So that means Sanctum is important to close out the game. You just find this pattern. You can start recognizing patterns when you're taking notes. When everything's just in your head from memory of playing, it's not the same as having notes taken down that you can refer back to. So I'm really enjoying the process of actually documenting my games and taking notes on what happens and trying to look for patterns and things that the deck excels at, or even the deck kind of diminishes at, and finding that as a means to an end to understand my decks better. This is great at the beginning and discovery of a new deck, ones you haven't played, new sets, all those sort of things. It becomes really helpful to really diagnose what your deck wants to do or what your deck can't do and struggles with. So I do like this. I do like both these methods, the goldfish and the note taking, because the note taking during goldfish means you're taking notes on 2 of your decks in that matchup, and you're not just noting what someone else's deck did. It's very handy, and I've been really enjoying this process. It's like the most fun I've had playing KeyForge by myself in a while, actually. And I think a big part of it is not being on TCO. The disconnect from technology, which is the reason why I play card games, is a big part of the enjoyment of this for me. So I just thought I would share these notes with you. And yeah, hope you enjoyed. Hope this sparked maybe your own journey on playing with yourself and 2 decks at the same time and seeing how they work, because it is a lot of fun. It's a good exercise, and I hope that you can leave your comments. This is something you do. Maybe you have your own little tips and tricks for making this more successful. Please share them in the comments. I always love to hear your feedback and your input on topics mentioned here. And then, as always, folks, may your ember never be stolen and your keys forged promptly. Have a good one.